going to embark fully, and we don't know for how long the strike will embark fully. ASU have tried meeting with the federal government on negotiating on how they can have a lasting solution to the problem, the ongoing problem, but it all ended in deadlock. And we see that even the Minister of Education is not even worried about the whole issue, because it is your sector, you are overseeing this sector. You're supposed to be at the forefront on how you can negotiate on this issue so a student can go back to school. When the educational sector is thriving, we will grow, we will develop, and people will even believe in our nation. We'll see where people come to our country to study. I keep on saying, is it a taboo that we must always go to other nations to study? Why can't they come to our country to study? Why can't they come to Nigeria to study? Just Ghana here. I keep on giving this example of Ghana. I know I heard of the story where Ghanaians were like slaves in Nigeria, and what happened when they went back to their country? They put their hands on deck and developed their country, and now Nigerians run to Ghana to go and study. We won't prefer studying in Ghana than studying in our own country. Why? Because Ghanaians knew the problem. They knew where their problem was coming from. They settled all those problems, and they are thriving. But look at us now. Our educational sector have become a thing of history. And just like you said, you see this 100 million form that we have aspirants buying for this election. It shows that there are money. You see different aspirants coming up to say farmers are the ones who contributed money to buy. An individual can even buy this form for someone, but they are not looking at what will help us thrive. I will say, even if you succeed at the end of the day, you become the president, and we have all these issues glaring, you can't settle it, then how can you even enjoy your stay as a president? How can you enjoy your service as a president? The same country, we have issue of insecurity. The same country, we have the issue of our educational sector. It is collapsing, Sele. Look at our health sector also. All the things that are supposed to help us grow, all the sectors that are supposed to help us thrive, all the sectors that are supposed to help us to be even recognized are the ones collapsing. Then we put interest, we put our attention on the things that won't even take us anywhere. Now, all these politicians, all their attention now is just on how these primaries will take place, and on how they can come back as president, how they can retain their position as governor. They're not looking at how they can make all these places thrive. I say it, even if one aspirant can say, okay, this is the problem we're going through in the educational sector, I think I should single-handedly look out for ways we can do this. Face all these things. We see in their manifestos, what did they say? They say people should go, students should go back to the farm, go back to this thing. Even if you go back to the farm, we're not talking about mechanized farming. If you go back to the farm with this insecurity, if you go back to the farm, we have people in the farming sector, and they are educated, and you see that you to thrive. Without education, you can't go anywhere. Without education, you can't do anything. So we cannot sideline issue of education. We cannot cancel the issue of education. Education is important, and it is priority, because you need to invest in education. You need to be educated before things will thrive. Yes, there are people who succeed even not being educated, but education is very important. And our politicians and even those in the brim of affairs need to know that education is very important, and for our country to thrive, we need to invest in education, and this is what they need to know, that we need to invest in education.
Thank you so much, Tosin. Well, let's go through our papers. At 9:30, we shall open the phone lines where you can call us and let us know what your feels are or your views are concerning any of the story that's of interest. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube, so do well to drop your comment and we'll read them. And I'll be starting with the Nigerian Tribune. Supreme Court has cleared civil servants to participate in politics, Falana tells the federal government. And you can read details of the story on page 27. Awolowo's 35th patronal service holds today, with the rider Zoom link on page 8. And the big story here, which is on presidential race, odds against additional, with the rider World African Development Bank Code of Conduct says. 23 aspirant picks the APC forms as Buhari keeps chieftains guessing. Silva may join the race. And we have our fifth Nigeria, this is coming from Saraki, says we can't vote just any Nigerian as president, and you can read more of the story on page 23. ASU may roll over their strike, and you can read more of that on page 26. Catholic bishops to leaders do more to tackle insecurity and hunger. Airlines have suspended the planned shutdown of operations, and you can read more of that story on page 6. And our booster reward system in APC, this is coming from Tinubu, visits Taraba and Adamawa. How we are ramping up security architecture, this is coming from the Vice President Usibanjo, received CAC delegation. And we also have a picture story here where we can see the UBA and the founder Tony Lumev and Mr. Tunem and the Prince Minister of Jamaica Andre at the Prime Minister's office in Jamaica on Friday. And that's all on the Nigerian Tribune. You can do well to get the paper, read any of the story that's of interest to you.
While on the Nation newspaper, inflation to hit 7-month high at 16.2%, interest rates to go up. Aviation workers begins warning strike, airlines shelve flight halt. And Senator Nzeribe dies at 83. And we know that Senator Nzeribe died of an undisclosed illness on Saturday evening at age 83. He was the longest serving senator from Imo State. May he so rest in peace. And VC's wives shift parley while ASUMO's strike extension protest in cities. Details can be found in page 3. And Buhari in Cote d'Ivoire for COP15. 2 expectant moms held for drugs. Details can be found in page 2 of the Nation newspaper. The big story says APC slams 9 condition on presidential aspirants. Contenders barred from taking party to court. And some of the conditions for the presidential aspirants are acceptance of outcome/support for winners, not engaging in thuggery and party activities, must not create parallel congress at any level, must sign letter of voluntary withdrawal, and preserve, defend APC and the 1999 Constitution, abide by Electoral Act guidelines, and place APC above selfish interest. Petrol scarcity back in FCT, and federal government investors draw down 850 billion naira on claimed dividend fund. Supreme Court verdict on 17 oil wells not final, says Imo government. And the picture story on the front page of the Nation newspaper, we can see the long queues that are back in Abuja and environs. That's all on the Nation newspaper.
Thank you, Sosin. A look at the Guardian newspaper, Emifede 2023 aspiration rattles financial expert and lawyers. The writer following that the injection of CBN chief additional points to more complex game plan. He has no moral and ethical dozens of motorcycles attack villages. 43 victims buried, attackers rans hospital. And Zanfara government and the police are mum. Fuel queues resurface as retail stations shut in Abuja, Kano, and Lagos. And this is really, just like I said, we're just hoping that it doesn't affect other states. We are seeing that the airlines were actually planning to go on an indefinite strike, which they actually suspended. But we really need to look into making the fuel available, also making the diesel available for people to be able to, because people depend on all this for their businesses to strive. And if businesses are not moving, definitely when people are hungry, they'll go to the streets and cause trouble. So I just hope that the government will look into what they can do to make sure that these queues will not resurface in other states, and also that it will clear in Abuja and other states. And still on the Daily Trust newspaper, for MASOP leader. And pastor arraigned for asking for 300,000 naira fee to enter heaven. And on defection, Yari Marafa, excuse me, on defection we have
oil marketers raised the alarm, accused airline operators of trying to force subsidy on aviation fuel. Wonder why only local airlines are complaining about rising ATK price and also the scarcity. AON halt plan to suspend flight operators. On this day newspaper, long fuel queues return in Abuja and environs. In broad daylight, terrorists kill 63 in Zanfara communities. Buhari directs military to sustain offensive against criminal. And not just in Zanfara state, we have this issue of criminal activities and terrorists invading the whole country. So not just in Zanfara state, we need to intensify our efforts, even in the 36 states, including the FCT. We need to intensify efforts coming from the security operatives, where they need to be deployed in all these places, this locality, because the silent killings, we heard of the killing in Miongo community just last week. So we need to intensify more efforts and deploy security operatives so that they can look into all these things. We need to tackle this issue of insecurity in the country at large. And Yakasei, APC deputy bound to ensure power shift to the south. On 2023, African leaders pressure Buhari for AFDB president and Adeshina. The writer says in apparent double standard, activist Akeredolu, PDP, Tambuwal, Ezekwesili, others keep mum as Adesina fails to resign after his proxies purchased form for him. Action Alliance group fault calls for Emefiele's sack and insists CBN governor has no breached any law. The full story can be found in page 5 of this day newspaper. And presidential interview series 4 on Peter Obi, why Nigeria is qualified as a failed state. And here the picture story, we can see the new side of Adamawa, and that's all on this day newspaper.
A look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Southern APC presidential aspirants in Delima with the rider as chances become slimmer. You can read detail of that on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Court stops PDP and INEC from conducting fresh Congress in Eboyi. And we can read more of that on page 29. And the big story here, tension in PDP over zoning convention committee with the rider Atiku, Tambuwal, Wiki and others split net. Domestic airlines cancel plan to shut down flight operations with the rider aviation expert urges the federal government to release unused 22 billion naira bailout fund for Jet A1 subsidy. Other stories still on the paper here. We have Uzodinma Kalu mourn the ex-senator Ezeribe. Pregnant women barber arrested for drug trafficking at the Lagos airport with the rider NDLA intercept large consignment of drugs in Kaduna, Yobe and Plateau. We also have other stories here that said PDP primaries, we are for you. Enugu West Zone delegate assures Agoyi. With the rider commend the governor for a peaceful World Congress in the state. And you can read more of that story on page 30. We also have a picture story here, so you can do well to get the Daily Sun newspaper and read any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Independent, PDP presidential primaries, Atiku, Saraki, Wike emerge as top 3 aspirants. I know that the PDP primaries will take place on May 28 and 29 at Eagle Square in Abuja, and they brought down the number of their presidential, like those who are going to go for the primaries, to Wike, Atiku, and Saraki. They are like the top 3 topping the charts. And unlike we know that for APC we have up to 21 presidential aspirants, we've not known the top 3 that are topping the charts, but we still look out for the primaries to see who emerge as the presidential aspirant for both parties. Buhari asks military to sustain operations against bandits in Northwest. Federal government borrowings crowding out lending to private sector. Analyst says it's unhealthy for the economy. Ngige misled Nigerians who are still on strike. This is coming from research workers. An INEC chairman can't join presidential race. This is coming from the commission. Former PDP state chairman tackle party's National Working Committee over attack on Emefiele, and why NINT stands out from previous assemblies. This is coming from Lawan. Buhari attends conference on desertification degradation in Abidjan. An aviation crisis, airlines succumb to pressure, call off planned shutdown of operations. There is corruption in supply chain of aviation fuel. This is coming from the union. And reps council planned emergency session to meet stakeholders. Ato Nzeribe death, a big loss to Nigeria, says Uzodinma. And details can be found in page 6. And that's all on the Daily Independent paper.
Thank you so much, Tosi. Before we look at other stories still trending on our Nigerian newspaper, we should take a time out where we can open the phone lines for our callers to call us and let us know what your feels are concerning any story that's of interest to you. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is from the Dailies on Echo Television Africa, and I am Sele Elisha Dasham, and with me have been Owola B. Tosin.
Thanks, Sele, for having me.
Thank you. Our phone lines are open right now, so we indulge you to please call us and let us know what your views are concerning any of the story that is of interest to you on our Nigerian newspaper. Our phone lines are actually displayed on your screen right now. And do not forget to drop your comments too on our Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. Still on the papers, we'll be looking at the Voice of Liberty. Banditry, Buhari welcomes relative calm in the Northwest, Lawn Security Agency. Airline operators suspend planned shutdown of flight services. Crude oil theft, federal government commends advanced cargo declaration regime. Serap have sued Buhari, wants court to declare pardon for Dare Iyame illegal. And Nigerian fuel subsidy to hit 3.55 trillion naira in 2022. And this is a report. The federal government may incur 3.55 trillion naira in petrol under recovered costs. Hello, Samuel. You're my first caller for today. Good morning. Go on with your comments.
Good morning.
Government and National Assembly to remove police from this spectrum so that when they retire, they can collect all their gratuities and receive better salary so that they can face security very well in this country because they are in the bread and every side of Nigeria to fight security. How can somebody have mind to be fighting security when if he retire, he's not getting anything? Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you so much for that beautiful comment. We're still on our paper, Nigeria first subsidy to hit the 3.55 trillion naira under the recovery cost, better known as subsidy in 2022, according to a report by Coastal Security issued at the weekend. Well, we'll still be keeping our fingers crossed, but still looking at the first subsidy. We just hope that when this first subsidy is being incurred, at the end of the day, what do the common man have to achieve at the end of the day? If a fuel is not available, then what do we stand to achieve? Even after paying so much amount for first subsidy, it's expected that after paying this amount, it's going to be more lighter on the common man. But that is the reverse is the case we are looking at right now. So I just hope that the federal government will actually look into it. Already in our papers, we're having the fact that our borrowing is becoming, it's like wearing us out in the nation. We are not looking into how can we look into making something, having something that we can generate revenue out of it. We keep saying we should stop depending on our oil. The oils well are drying up. If you actually look at already, we're having issues between Imo and Rivers concerning issues of this crude oil. So when we don't look into, thinking outside the box, what else can we do? I've said this where we had recession, the 2 times that we had recession in the country, it was agriculture that bailed us out. So why don't we look into going back to that? What happened to our cocoa? What happened to other things? So I just hope we'll look into it. Hello, Praise Will from Abakaliki. Good morning. Fine, thank you. Please go on with your comments.
And our children are roaming the streets. You should have put them into banditry groups. How can they do a thing like that? It's not that they was very indolent. We can't do this kind of thing in North African countries, maybe in Egypt, Morocco, and they use watching them, wasting our common resources, and they are saying many of them don't know. I can tell you that the president doesn't know the purpose of education. Otherwise, you cannot be having business like this. And they will tell you that farmers contributed to them to buy farms and all that. What a ridiculous thing are we in here for? And people are not angry enough. I don't think we're so sexually angry in this country. Angry. I can tell you that some of that things happen in this country. How can our children, the future generation, this is a very wicked generation. When they typically after a wicked generation. And I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand. Everybody here is an IDP. Everyone here is in captivity. And the youth who are Muslim concerned, what the Jews are talking about is give the youth chance to be president, give the youth, and they are seeing the president in Norway. Not all of them, they are not even showing enough interest. It's not unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. I pray that God will save us from this bondage to find ourselves, bondage of the country to find ourselves. And we're using trusting the right. We know our house is burning. If I were asked, I would say more than 10 years. Let the whole place, let the whole system collapse. One of you was commenting about what happened in Ghana. In our secondary school days, Ghanaians invaded this country. In fact, it was the Ghanaian that taught chemistry. And you would see Ghanaians in primary school teaching. But you see, when they said Ghana was going, they put their hands together. Today, we are moving in droves to Ghana to study. Shagari was in power, Shagari went to India. He was given an award, an honorary degree award. And he refused it because they said that India universities were not supposed to give a Nigerian president an award. And people were not against it. And then again, what is India to go and get medical treatment? What are we talking about here? Look, and what annoys me most that the youth who are supposed to rise. Look at their mates. Their mates are almost deserting.
I understand. I actually understand. We all have the right to, express our grievances concerning issues that affect the nation. But it's not just about the government. I always say this. We all have to put our heads together and say, what can we do? I've said it when it comes to the ASU strike. It's not just about the government. What has ASU done? Each and everyone has failed the students in one way or the other. And that's why I give the instance about the candidates that have picked the presidential form in APC. Over 20-something of them have picked up that 100 million naira form. 100 million is not 100 naira to say. It's actually a huge amount of money. And we're looking at what can we do to see that. Why don't we use this money? If we have such an, people come out and say we have such an amount of money. How come lots of sectors are falling down? Our health sector, educational sector, and other sectors. And just like our caller rightly stated, lots of things are happening when you take a look at the insecurity, students becoming nuisance in the society. Lots of them are going through depression, and so many other things, are coming up. And I think this will still take us to the fact that we need to stand up and do something. Whether you're a youth, whether you're a woman or a man, it's high time that you get your PVC. Go to the polls when it's time. Exercise your franchise because it is your right, it is your power. Vote the person you feel is capable of handling the office. Well, that's all on the Voice of Liberty to say.
And on Al Jazeera Nigeria on 2015 budget, Mark Tamboa others collected 17 billion naira. Bribe padded into budget as election expenses. This is from Okonjo Iweala. We insisted amounts should be dropped from 20 billion naira to 17 billion naira, says ex-minister. And we were prepared and knew we had to trigger additional
Sorry to say, I have to cut you short. Hello, we have a call from River. Good morning. Please go on with your comment. You have 30 seconds because other callers will be waiting.
Hello? Hello, are you there?
We can hear you. Please go on with your comment. You have just a minute.
Okay. Now, the issue concerning River State and State about oil wells, the boundary adjustment commission, they never knew what they are doing. Because you cannot tell me that somebody, he comes from Imo State, come down to River State, cross 2 villages, enter into their land, you can claim ownership of oil wells. Yet, these people do not want to know where is the boundary between Rivers and Imo. So you see that they are the people trying to cause confusion in all these things. And we are not happy about it. So we all are Edema. But they should be able to find out where the boundary is situated before they make their decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Tosi, please go on with your comment.
And we were prepared and knew we had to trigger additional expenditure. On 2023, CSO slam Akeredolu, Ezekwesili, others over attack against Emefiele. Buhari departs for COP15 conference in Cote d'Ivoire. And Ato Zeribe dies at 83 in London. IMF warns against adopting cryptocurrency as legal tender, while airline operators suspend nationwide planned strike amid confusion. Super Eagles' new coach appointment stalled, and on 2023, INEC will shock the government, says Edwin Clark. African Development Bank secures $15.6 billion from Lagos-Abidjan highway construction. And on presidential primaries, Atiku visits Osun Oyo woos PDP delegates. Details can be found in page 22 of the Al Jazeera Nigeria, and that's all on Al Jazeera newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. And on 2023 presidency, aspirant intensify lobby over zoning as PDP net meets tomorrow. The writer following that story said the Southeast APC presidential aspirant to meet this week. This is coming from the Minister of Labour, Ngige. And the screaming story here, bandit kill 55 in the fresh Zanfara attacks. We must not allow bandits have a free reign again. This is coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. And on GDP contribution to economy, manufacturing sector staggers with the rider average GDP contribution 9% in 3 years. Trade agri sector 26% contribution. Nigeria well below industrialization goals. This is coming from NECCIMA, and federal government must tackle Biden constraint urgent. This is coming from MAN. And the sector remains largely import dependent. This is coming from CPPC. We can see a bar chart here of the contribution of manufacturing and agriculture to the GDP from 2019 to 2021. We can actually see some of it. So you can take a look at the bar chart there and see more about the story concerning the manufacturing sector. 10 feared dead as explosion rocks illegal refinery in Abia. I think we really need to look into these illegal refineries that we've been having. We just had one in Imo that they're still trying to look into it, and another one in Abia. I think more needs to be done about checking issues like this. An ASU warning strike ends today. Union may go on full-blown action. And the 100 million naira nomination from Kwakwaso Mog's APC says NNPC form is cheap. So he's calling for more people, that means. Well, you can look that story up on page 7. Declare Buhari's pardon for Darie Iyami illegal, Sarah tells the court. Why I haven't named those behind insecurity in Imo. This is coming from Uzudima. Power generation falls 25% as Discos rejects the 371 megawatts. Detail of that story can be found on page 8. An aviation union shut down flight operation in 2-day warning strike. UK exclude Nigerian graduates as it begins high potential visa application. And we can look more into page 8. And I think with what UK have done to exclude Nigerian graduates, we'll look into our educational sector and see what we can do to make it better. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On the Leadership newspaper, the Acting Controller General of Immigration, Issa Jerry Idris, is talking about passport issuance, online payments, appointment system yielding good result. Sustain your role in Nigerian stability, unity, Tinubu begs leadership. And ahead of parties' primaries, CSOs kick against aspirant use of state resources for campaign. Northern group decry hijack of political space by some actors, and we don't want government of continuity. This is from ACF. Beware of aspirants with empty promises, Afenifere tells Nigerians. Amechi Saraki Peter Obi intensifies campaign for party tickets. ASU ends warning strike to decide next line of action. An aviation for 1-hour flight may hit 120,000 naira. Illegal refinery, 10 feared dead in Abia explosion. And that's all on the Leadership newspaper.
And on Nigerian News Direct, Oyetola congratulates Baba Akande on Lifetime Achievement Award. Detail can be found on page 22. And on fuel scarcity, long queues resurface in Abuja. The screaming story here say Aviation Crisis, operators withdraw action on proposed shutdown, with the rider said interests of national economy, security as reason for reversal. Increase in flight fare key to domestic airlines problems. This is coming from Expert. You can look that story up on page 2 of the Nigerian News Direct. NCC rallies media stakeholders to enhance effective reporting of telecoms industry. Nigerian box office record 582 million naira revenue in April, and I think this is another sector Nigeria needs to look into when it comes to entertainment industry, because we are getting quite a number of money in that industry. So Nigeria should look into more concerning tourism, entertainment, and other things that we can see can actually, bring money into the country so that our GDP will hit up. Federal government earmarks 200 billion naira for vehicle financing scheme. And the last story here says on 2023, Ogun Elders Advisory Council gives nod to Abiodun's second-term bid. Detail of that story can be found on page 3, and that's all in the Nigerian News Direct.
On national economy, anxiety as fuel scarcity resurfaces in Abuja. Ilumelu seeks U.S. better relationship with Africa. Federal government floats 200 billion naira vehicle financing scheme, and an expert says mass exodus of Nigerians reveal deep economic crisis. And Jet A1 unit cost per seat to hit 120,000 naira as AON suspends planned operations shut down. And that's all on the National Economy newspaper.
Thank you so much, Tosin, and that is how far we can go on the program from the Dailies. It's really a pleasure to have our viewers and also our supporters always supporting us to make sure we keep you updated with what's happening in the nation. Remember, if there is a will, there will always be a way. Have a blessed day ahead.
Talent Show